I want you to get together.
Hello everyone. So just a random one for you today, another random rumination. It comes off the back of my recent release, which was the breakdown of Clint Eastwood, a song by a virtual band called Gorillaz, created by the frontman for Blur, Damon Albarn. And I basically break down in that video, if you haven't seen it already, just how truly satanic that entire song is, and the band is, you know, and how that song, the lyrics are a demon talking to you directly, explaining how it works. And I've done a few music breakdowns before. I did one about Inico, a rising artist right now, who is basically a new age, a perfect epitome symbol of new age thought, spirituality, you know. And she's basically gaining huge popularity, singing about being an extraterrestrial human hybrid, something or other, star child, etc, nonsense. Just forwarding the Luciferian agenda. And I have these series, don't I, on my channel, where it's called Lucifer Singing to You, and she was a prime example of that. And prior to that, you know, I basically had this theory that whenever there's a mainstream artist who's at such high levels in the charts, let's say, usually the female artists, you'll find if you start breaking down a lot of the lyrics of their songs, that what it is that they are written as though it is Lucifer speaking to you directly about how they feel and their agenda and what they want, which is to obviously be like God. You'll find a lot of these songs are a glorification of pride, narcissism, self-ascension, self-aggrandizing. I'm so great, look at me now, all my haters can suck it type of attitude, on top of, you know, this whole worship yourself, worship the earth, or, you know, worship anything other than God, basically. And it's just a common trope, you know. The lyrics are often written as though it could have been Lucifer themselves who wrote it. And I find maybe this is a form of channeling. So there are these women who get to these high levels, who are on stage. I'm not going to name any exact names, but there's probably a couple good handful you can probably pick off the top of your head. But they get thousands upon thousands, or maybe hundreds of thousands of people at their concerts screaming in adulation at them, in utter awe at how glorious this person is that on this stage, you know, as though they are a god, and they treat them like that. And I find, you know, when that kind of energy is directed towards one individual, then the spirit that's going to possess that individual and take all the gratification and the energy is likely going to be the big chief, Lucifer himself. Which is why these people who get to such high levels of adulation and glory and direction and attention often seem to be singing as though they are Lucifer. I think that's what's going on, you know. And maybe it is the spirit within is the one, you know, the big one, the commander-in-chief, those who controls all the demons. But then underneath these grand godlike figures in the music industry, who literally get portrayed as gods, ordained in jewels and gold and diamonds and irradiating clothing, and framed as though they are literally an embodiment of a god themselves. Well, just below them there are other lesser yet still famous people who have a spirit within them as well, it seems. So I was explaining, you know, in the Gorillaz video, how literally this demon is telling you all the famous musicians that you love and follow, the lyrics were created by me, the demon, and they channeled me and my creativity, and they believe and pretend, or literally believe maybe, that it's them who created it, but it wasn't. It was me working through them to make the music that you listen to, and it's all literally written by spirits from the demonic realm. And I've noticed through my research into the Nephilim look like clowns stuff, when analysing the music industry and representations within, that it's not that obviously every now and then a musician will represent a clown in their music video. So what? You know, that's not really the biggest deal that I'm aiming at. What is fascinating is the practice that a lot of musicians follow and use is very similar to what ancient folk traditions do when summoning demons in their rituals and their practices. What they do is they dress like the thing to summon the thing. They dress like a demonic looking, hairy, crazy, wild, fractal coloured jester clown monster in order to summon the said clown monster, the demons, or what they call ancestor spirits, because they believe these spirits to be the progenitors of their entire civilization, the true ancestors, the ones who created everything that they know and understand to be true about reality. So these aren't, I've said it again, I'll say it again, these aren't grandma and granddad. These spirits aren't your aunties and uncles, not that kind of ancestor. That's not what they mean. That's kind of our misunderstanding of it. These are not people they're channeling, and they know that. They know that that's not what they're channeling. These spirits are powerful entities of an ancient origin. That's what they mean by ancestor spirits. And what they do when they channel these in these folk traditions is they do it for power, for information, to know what to do next, for the best course of action. Knowledge is power, and that's what they go to these things for. Knowledge, essentially, and also skills and abilities. And the ability to, let's say, not get cut by a knife. Things like that. Impenetrable skin. Just things that would come useful to a tribe, let's say, is often what they ask for. And all it takes is to allow the demon within the body to then manipulate the individual and the reality to fulfill that desire. What the demon gets in return is a body and the ability to experience fleshly pleasures. So what these people do in these folk traditions often is they get possessed by the spirit, and then they smoke or eat or drink or do something which they think the spirit will enjoy. And the spirit does enjoy that. It's like it's a gift to the spirits, to the Nephilim, and that's often comes hand in hand with the ritual. And the Theum tradition is a good one in India, where this one person is said to channel the entity, and the whole village then gives offerings to it of meat and fish and blood and all sorts of things, literally heinous stuff. And it's kind of like the person who embodies the Theum, the spirits, then has to eat the chicken whole, raw. If he gets given something, it has to eat it, because the demon inside needs it and wants to experience that pleasure. Though it could be said that the person doing it isn't even in control anymore, and it is the demon eating the chicken live, biting the head off of it and all that kind of stuff. It's a weird practice, but that's what they do in those folk traditions. And again, back to the music industry, I feel like I've noticed that a lot of these big names in the music industry, the ones that have become idols and worshipped and considered the greatest of all time, they tend to lean towards dressing like a clown. They white and pale their skin up, they give themselves red lipstick and deep set wide looking eyes with black makeup and eyeliner even. They wear the most colourful, wacky, psychedelic clothing they can. They give themselves puffy, crazy, wild hair. And if not that, it's some spin on this idea of jester, clown-like motifs. And I believe they're doing the exact same thing that these folk traditions do. They're channeling spirits in order to gain power and ability even. So the ability to write songs, to get the information from the other realms, to channel music, the ability to play instruments better than other people. Their inspiration comes from the spirit realm, and that's how they get it. That's what they do. They dress and act in this way, and they make themselves up to look like something similar to what these folk traditions would do. And that's a huge secret of the industry. I think if you act and dress and channel the demon, then you'll gain power. And this is selling your soul for rock and roll. This is the same thing, and what the demon gets out of it is worship. He gets to be in the body and see all of these people direct their energy towards them on the stage, and worship them and scream for them. And the demon has influence. The demon who is within the artist, the musician, the channeler, shall we say, because these artists probably have very little talent off their actual own back. It's all through the demon. You know, the demon gets to see that the people love it and its creations, so it gets that fulfillment, that feeling of pride within itself. But also something to do with Lucius here as well. I think that energy, it's feeding off of it. You know, it gets something from it, kind of like a sustenance in some way. And also it gets to influence the minds of those who worship them to think and act in a certain way and have maybe more new age Luciferian beliefs. So in terms of being that demon within the channeler, the musician, being a foot soldier for the spiritual war we're in, it's doing a good job in that respect. It's doing its part for the plan. It's making human beings follow Luciferian agendas and turn away from God. That's success, you know, for the demon. Well, good for them, you know. Yeah, so the music industry is rife with this practice, this new age channeling of some way. But it's not new age. You know, new agers do talk about channeling spirit guides and all this type of stuff. And I think a lot of these musicians have this airy, fairy, naive worldview about what they're doing. They think they're channeling good spirits, white spirits, you know, spirit, again, ancestor spirits, spirit guides, angels, you know, this fluffy, nice version of what they think they're doing, you know, and the information's good. So some of them know they're doing it. I think a lot of them don't. I think there's a lot of up-and-coming musicians who are a bit naive to the nature of the spirit realm and how it works and interacts with the physical, and they don't really have any occult knowledge. Well, they'll mimic their idols who are already famous, who probably do know these practices, and they will dress in a similar way to try and, because they believe you got to dress this way to get famous, you know, that's what people like, that's what all the greats do. So they copy them and end up channeling demons themselves and creating more of the same, and it just becomes this huge satanic mess, basically. And this is another point I want to get onto, you know, that spiritual ritualistic practice aside, you know, and go look, you'll notice it now I've said it, all the famous, the biggest musicians that everybody loves and adores and treats like gods, and obviously when these artists inevitably die because they're mortal, people mourn for them like they personally knew them, which is just cringy. That makes me cringe when I see people do that, to be honest. But that's what happens because these people idolize them as gods. Go look, you'll notice they all lean towards fractal jester clown fashion in some way, shape or form, if not colourful alien-esque covered in jewels and diamonds look like Lucifer, the fallen angel. It's one of the two. Anyway, other than that, music itself, I've noticed, is just awful. Like, and I come at the back of this as, you know, someone who's relatively ignorant now to modern mainstream music. I don't follow any artists or musicians or bands. I really don't. I used to be in a band as a teenager, you know, a garage band we'll call it. I know a thing or two about music. I can play about 5 instruments, you know. I know a thing or two about music. You know, I write my own songs. I can cover a few songs, and it's. I myself kind of have had that moment where I felt like I channeled music, when I was in my psychedelic fractal stage of life, you know, where I was taking all these heavy drugs. I've had that moment where a song has just appeared out of nowhere, and it was written and done in about 2 minutes. You know, and it was good, and it's kind of, whoa, where did that come from type of thing. And it does give you this sense of pride, like, oh, I'm so brilliant, look how amazing and talented I am. But from this new perspective, I understand that's probably all a part of the process of the manipulation and deception, which a lot of these musicians fall for, you know, and get so big and full of themselves. But yeah, I guess I've been there. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, you know, I understand how music works. Essentially, I've got a base knowledge. You know, I'm not saying I'm the greatest musician in the world, but I'm not ignorant to how it works. You know, I think I have an eclectic taste. You know, and I don't love any particular genre. I take all genres for what they are, you know, and pick the good and the bad from each. You know, and music, as far as I'm aware today, in general, is just awful. Like, I don't like listening to it, and I don't care for any of it. The lyrics are just satanic to the core, and it's just singing about the worst possible human traits all the time. And also, the writing is lazy. It's bad. It's just bad music, you know. And it's kind of, cannot be the best humanity has to offer in terms of creativity that's in the charts right now. It cannot be, you know. There must be still talented people out there who can create amazing things, and I've seen some, I've listened to some, you know. I understand there are some good musicians out there who probably aren't satanic, you know, and haven't channeled all this stuff, and do have brilliant God-given musical talents, you know. But the ones that are pointed at you and put on the TV and on the radio incessantly, the ones that they want you to listen to, are just so bad. The modern music industry is just a cesspool of bollocks, you know. It's so bad. I cannot stand it. I cannot listen to it. It hurts my soul, you know, to actually have it. I feel like it makes me ill taking it in, you know. And people just are so oblivious to it. They don't think about it or care. And you find that that most of the music today, people don't actually even listen to the lyrics that they're hearing and what they mean. They don't understand what's going on, you know. Case in point, you know, this Gorilla song I broke down, which obviously came out in 2002. It's an old song now, but the practice hasn't really changed. You listen to the lyrics of these songs, and it's basically just supporting. They're all the same. It's just love yourself, put yourself above everything, treat yourself like you're a god, hate everybody else, only focus on making money and getting sex. And that's basically it. That's the message of every single song that exists now. There's very little else to it. And even the ones that think they're getting deep, all it is just a love song about how heartbroken they are, how suicidal they are because they can't find love, or how so disturbingly in love they are with an individual that they become some kind of narcissistic, weird, stalkerish person. You know, it's hyper focused on themselves and being obsessed with somebody else. And again, it just seems a bit something weird about it. You know, I don't like it. That's my honest opinion. And this is, I know I'm somebody who liked music, you know, as a teenager growing up. I was somebody who was really into it, you know, and I get it, you know, I get it. And music is such a subjective, sensitive topic. It's difficult to talk about this without people going absolutely crazy and deeply defending these artists to the death, you know, like, how dare you talk trash about my music taste and the music I like, you know. And people go nuts over it, absolutely nuts, if you say I cannot stand that genre of music, you know. They take it as a personal affront to them, you know, and they have identified so much with sounds that if you make fun of that sound, or say you have a distaste for that sound, they think you're saying you don't like them. Like, that's messed up, that people have that much of an identity intertwined with noises. You know, it's, when you think about it at its core, that's not good. That is not good. And someone, I was talking to the host of Sabbath at Midnight podcast at the end, you know, when I was having a chat with them on the podcast, and they kept bringing up this point, you know, when I was talking about music, that they know and see all these people who are like in the 50s and the 40s getting on a bit, and they're still just kind of clinging on to this hope that they're going to be a famous, like, rock musician or band or something, you know. And I see this myself. I've seen these people who are in this age bracket, you know, and they are still obsessed with these old 80s, 70s rock bands. You know what I mean? I'm not going to name them. I'm not interested in the specifics. And they still go to these concerts and act and dress like they did when they were kids, you know, and they never grew out of it. They never left it. They never got themselves out of this mindset, and they still see themselves and act in that way. It's like, it's kind of like a form of arrested development in a way, you know. It's this inability to move on that this music has over them. The music has a grip on them, and it's keeping them locked into this personality mode, which actually is not very unique or clever. You find that surrounded with thousands of other people who are in that exact same frame with the exact same dress sense, and it's in a way cultish behaviour. And I get the humans need to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, and that kind of gives it to them. I think like the Juggalo community is another prime example of that, you know, and I understand that human need to feel like you're a part of something, and in a way it's kind of putting on a uniform to identify as a part of this wider community that you feel like you're a part of. But this, on a grand scale, when we're talking about history zoomed out, looking at the story and the conspiracy as a whole, what it is just another example of anything but God. You know, this sense of feeling of belonging and feeling like you're a part of something bigger than yourself is what God is trying to provide to you through Jesus. But through Jesus, it's a way for you to still maintain you, your personality, who you are, who God created you to be, truly, not a vessel for demons to then move you to be and live in the way that they want to, not an obsessive culturist who wants to be a part of this weird music culture and be everything about these bands and these idols and follow these false idols. God didn't intend you to be like that. He doesn't want you to become a uniformed member of a cult and lose all your individuality. He wants you to be you and your full potential and who you were supposed to be. And that's what he offers. That's the whole point. And there is this tendency, you know, for a lot of, I think it happens in the Christian church as well, where they get very cultish about it and lose their sense of identity in themselves, in Christ, to the point, which I understand is a good thing to do. You're supposed to be born again in Christ. I get that. But that you're supposed to still be you and offer you your unique traits and your abilities to the greater good of the community and the story that's going on. But don't abandon who you are, you know, because God intended you to be somebody. It's kind of not to give into the cult in a way and lose all sense of identity and self, you know. Again, that is a very spiritualist Eastern practice. It's the whole idea of ego death, in losing your character and becoming one with the whole type of thing, and having no earthly desires, all that type of stuff. It's like a twist when you think about it, you know. I feel like, I guess I don't know what I'm saying with this, but I do know what I'm saying with this. There's something going on where it's bad to have an identity from a Christian perspective, which is not different from the Eastern perspective, where it's bad to have an identity, you know. And if those two are cooperating with each other, then something's wrong, okay? Maybe the ego as we know it isn't evil necessarily, as it's kind of been demonized to be in the modern world, you know. It's ego death is a good thing. Losing your sense of character and who you are is a good thing. Well, think about that actually. Is that true? Is that really true? You know, or is our identity and who we are a God-given gift and we shouldn't be giving it up so easily? Our personality, our uniqueness, our thing that makes us quintessentially us, the true diversity in this world, you know, personality, diversity of personality, and ability and skills and abilities to perceive and understand. We all have levels and we're all different in that respect, and we shouldn't just sacrifice that to our idols, or false idols, should we say, you know, or to band members, to music and sounds, to these earthly type things, you know. And we should be giving ourselves over to God and to Jesus, and God is this intangible thing essentially, which gives us the ability to reflect and see that we are who we are, you know, and he created us to be who we are. I don't think it's hard to talk about without offending people, and I'm sure what I've said is going to be considered something stupid or ridiculous, and maybe it is. I'm just thinking out loud here, you know. This is a stream of consciousness. But whatever you think about theology, what I can say for certain is the modern music industry is an absolute mess. It literally is just a satanic pool of filth. It's awful, okay? And you should be swimming in it. Anyway, I'll leave that there. A random rumination for you guys. Thanks for listening, and as always, God bless.
I want you to get together